All right, welcome to the next part. Whatever part this is, it'll be listed on the video. I was actually thinking I just took a little break to grab a bite to eat because I have to remind myself to do that when I paint because I forget to eat sometimes, and my wife's always giving me shit. But I was actually having thought because it was something that I think about often enough, and that is after now that I've produced quite a few videos and stuff like that. I've been doing this for quite some time, for years, and um, when I watch videos, when I'm watching tutorials by other artists, I'm depending on the context of the video and depending on what's whether the artist is actually doing a um, whether they're painting live like I'm doing right now. I'm painting and talking at the same time. The energy and the pacing of my videos, as you've probably noticed, is very different. Like if I pre-record it and then I do audio over it, if I voice over after that, I have a tendency to be a lot faster paced because I'm uh, concentrated purely on what I'm talking about. But when I'm painting, I'm half and half, so it has a tendency to. You'll notice that I kind of like it's a lot chiller. It's a lot more relaxed, a kind of pace to my dialogue essentially. Like right now, because I'm half thinking and I have to stop and think. My brain can't concentrate on too many things at the same time. That's the price you pay for being a moron. But uh, I'm curious to know, like, if you get a chance, if you go and check out my forum, I'd like to know what you prefer. Like when I paint for long hours very often. So for me, I have I'm listening to tutorials, or I like putting on videos in the background that are hours long. Where I'm just listening to somebody talk and think and paint at the same time because it kind of helps me get into that meditative headspace. Um, but then other times when I'm just sitting back and I'm not painting and I'm just watching somebody's tutorial, when a person gets more into it and picks up the pace and all that, I appreciate it then. But I have personal preferences depending on the context. But what do you prefer? Like if you've checked out more of my videos, if you've seen King's Harem, which of course was sped up because it was 6 months. I'm not going to give you 6 months worth of live video, live drawing. I think that would kill the most of you. I'm not that cruel, but you know what I mean. If you've been through King's Harem, the face is pretty fast and I'm packing in tons of information, right? What do you prefer? Which kind of videos do you prefer? I'd be interested to know. Because if you guys prefer a certain type of pace to the videos over others, if you prefer the slower paced, calmer ones, or if you prefer um, prefer the ones that are a little bit more energetic, then I'll produce more of those types of videos for you. You know. I don't mind either way. It's fine by me. It takes a little bit longer to render out these longer videos because some of them go over an hour long, or longer. So just let me know. I actually think I have a few that actually go over 2 hours in some cases because I take my time. I don't pressure myself to paint fast when I'm doing videos. I just paint at my own pace because I find that for me, I find that valuable to share with people because it gives you a realistic um, perspective of of how quickly artists work. You see things time lapsed, and you have a tendency to think that everybody like they're these magicians who can whip off these huge elaborate scenes in a couple of hours. That's technically not possible unless of course you're doing a photo mashup or something like that. Now I'm pretty satisfied with how this environment's looking. I might add a few refinements after and stuff, maybe add a few details, but I want to add a little suggestion of characters. Now I'm not going to go out and do a full blown out character design, but I do want to have some kind of a character going on here. So um, let me see if I can just to like how most environment artists do. They throw in little quick squiggles of people in there, just to add a little context of some kind of a character in there. I'm wondering how I can inject him into this piece. Actually, one of the things I think I'm going to do is see if I can warp my perspective just a little bit without warping all of my shapes here and making it all off kilter. Just my the lovely liquify tool. Gotta love it. Something you cannot do with traditional paint. This is a hell of an awesome time saver. Oh, okay. Okay. The reason I'm sloping this down is because it's going to suggest a hill. So when I put a character in here, your eyes will be able to connect the dots and say, okay, this ground actually curves upwards. So if I put a character in here, you'll be able to understand why he's there, essentially. I'm wondering how big I want this character to be. I don't want to kill the grandeur of this scene. Thinking. Now when I'm thinking of character, my brain keeps going back to the film Labyrinth. That character at the end of the film, the old woman who's carrying all of the junk on her back. Get off my back. That one. I love that character. I like the idea of this kind of like creature that just carries all of this crap on his back all the time. Just walks around with all these junk and pots and pans and straps and whistles and all kinds of stuff like that. So I think I can see if I can create something like that. Just suggest it though, because this is primarily an environment piece, but I want to inject a little bit of some little characters in there if I can. And I don't, to me, I'm not sitting here thinking, oh, it's got to look. I'm not thinking anatomically. I'm thinking about, it could be. You can call it a creature design, right? So I'm not trying to make this look too human. I'm not worried about that. This is more of the cartoonist in me right now. There's a lot of cartoon influence to this, but with a slightly darker theme. In fact, if I was to think about what type of cartoon, what style of cartoon I'm actually injecting into this, I'm thinking a lot of French cartoons, like I love a lot of the work that comes from Les Gobelins, the animation school. I love they're there's a good example of, you can tell it's a good school in the sense that, they really promote creativity and original ideas. France is just one of the best places on earth for artists. I've never been. I'm definitely going to go. Everybody I know is gone. And, like my friend Jimmy was telling me that, he goes, he uh, most of his readers for his graphic novels, the Trichome Dynasty, um, are in France. He goes because the culture, just the appreciation and the culture for artwork in France is, I don't know, leagues above what you'll find in North America, Canada, that type of thing. Because people live and breathe it. Like you can go and they have like, like local comic book artists that, you'll see racks and racks of this stuff at, the local convenience stores. In Montreal, you don't really get that kind of stuff anymore. Maybe when I was younger, I can't really remember. But like they really, really, they, you know, artists, illustrators, and stuff like that, they really hold them they really hold them at a state of stature. Like there's a lot of stature to people who do that kind of stuff, and they really promote it. And people, everyday people like you and I, will go out and really go out of their way to, to buy this stuff, and it's an important thing for them to build their collection of great art, and that kind of stuff is really awesome. I wish we had that in Montreal. That'd be really cool. I hope it becomes that one day, where you'll be able to go and pick up some gorgeous artwork by local artists and stuff like that just at the corner store. I think that'd be brilliant. But this piece overall, I have a bit of that thought process going on in my head. Um, I'm thinking about that right now in my piece. I'm wondering if I'm going to add a little bit of atmosphere here just to see. Just help him pop. I'm wondering if I want to move him in closer. So I'm kind of using pots and things, all kinds of stuff sitting on his back. Now, I'm going to add a little bit of a light onto him to help him stand out, just to suggest those three-dimensional forms. And I'm thinking a good bright source of light that would work would be the firelight coming from over here. So actually, I'm going to sample the color of the fire instead. It won't be as yellow. Oh, not bad. I'm not undecided. I don't even know if I want to put a character in here because I like the environment as standalone. But I'm just throwing it in to see if it adds something to the scene. If it doesn't add anything, then I'll just take them out. No harm done. Oh, there's something else to mention that I think is worth mentioning, and that's paid versus unpaid tutorials. That's actually something that sparked that whole thing I was talking about when I was talking about, don't hate on the big guy. The underdog isn't always the one that deserves the most uh, compassion. Sometimes you got to care for those big guys too. But this kind of falls into that same topic that I was talking about earlier, and that's the whole subject of making a career as an artist. You know, I love producing these tutorials. I love helping people. I offer all the advice. I always make a point of really making my best effort to answer everybody's questions when they write and stuff like that. But I also have a living to make, right? This is my profession. This isn't just a hobby. I'm not a hobbyist. This is what I do for a living. So for me, as an artist, depending on the type of career you want to have, um, if you want to be more independent, I've been a lot more. Apart from teaching in school, I'm much more of an independent artist now than ever. But um, but I still have to make a living, you know, and a lot of people like I've as much as I love a lot of the kind words and the praise I get for sharing a lot of advice and tips and stuff like that online. What bothers me is that a lot of these artists that are selling a lot of, they put a lot of work into selling tutorials and stuff like that. They're like, oh, I prefer your stuff because you're not always asking for money all the time. And as much as I appreciate, I don't agree with it because these people are trying to make a living. These are artists that work hard to produce content, um, to make a living so that they can do what they love, they can share with the community, and at the same time it's helping to pay the bills, it's helping to feed their kids, or feed themselves. And um, you can't hate on people like that. In fact, you can learn something from that. We as artists very often, there's a bit of a shyness when it comes to asking for money or whatever the case might be, and my personal advice is stop that, you know because it's that type of um, uh, timidness when it comes to the whole subject of money that often leads to us not being able to pay our bills, you know? So just take that into account. When people are, don't compare free stuff to the paid stuff because for starters, in most cases, the paid stuff is far higher quality and far much more informative and based on artwork that a lot more work was put into than the kind of stuff that you just find for free, and as it should be. You know, if I sit here and I give away all my best stuff and I give it all away, then great, great. I've shared something really cool with you, but I can't. That's not sustainable. I can't keep doing that for the rest of my life. I'll starve to death, right? So I have to take my career, not only my career, but the career of my fellow online mentors into account too. I'm not going to rip them off and say, well, so and so is, you know, why would I pay for your tutorial when I can get everything I want for free online? So with that being said, when I'm painting and I'm just doing my daily work, that's the kind of stuff I'll share, and I'll share my thoughts, and I'll make sure to, throw in a lot of stuff that's valuable for people to hear. But when it really comes to real, getting down to the nitty gritty, I will put that on my Gumroad page. I'll sell those tutorials. When it comes to real hands-on tutoring and helping somebody through, with their career and all that one-on-one, uh, yeah, that is a mentorship thing. That's not something I'm going to give away because that's a hell of a lot of work. And that's, you're asking for professional advice, right? You're asking for professional advice, a private mentor. That's, you know, that's not something that should be given away for free. I don't think morally or professionally or personally that's a smart choice, So um, if you have a bias about that stuff, just understand, put yourself in that person's shoes. The whole reason why they're, making these gum roads and the reason they're putting all this work into gum roads is because they're trying to share, but at the same time, not starve to death in the process. They're trying to, and when people do that, they're generally offering you really valuable content, stuff that's really going to make a huge difference for your career. So, don't compare the free stuff to the paid stuff. And people are making paid stuff because they need to. They're not doing it because they're greedy bastards. They're doing it because they're probably starving to death and they need your support. So just be cool with that kind of stuff too. Being such a preacher today. Sorry if I sound too preachy. I feel like I've been involved in this scene for a very, very long time. I'm very, very passionate about this type of work, about this type of lifestyle, and this is my career too, and I don't find it fair for artists to go out and work hard and then have their work um, pirated and get hated on because they actually have the audacity to. Charge anything for it. Steven Silver is a big advocate for not working for free, teaching you how to be a professional and how to learn how to ask for money and not get ripped off in the industry. Hugely valuable stuff. He's really, really knows his stuff, and I really respect his work and everything he dedicates to the scene. And he had a bit of an analogy that he'd come up with that was really a very good way of illustrating the point of um, working for free or working for peanuts and stuff like that. And he said, take the most entry level job you can think of, something that really doesn't require any kind of professional training at all, like cutting grass. We've all done that, for a little bit of extra cash or whatever the case might be. It's something that very often, when you're younger and you want to, or not even younger, there's professional grass cutters and stuff like that. But you know what I mean? And imagine that job. And then imagine yourself saying to him, well, listen, I'll tell you what, I'll, um, can you cut my grass for 2 weeks for free? And if I like you, I'll decide to keep you and hire you. But otherwise, there's other candidates, right? Would you ever even think of doing that to somebody who just cut your grass? And they said, well, as ridiculous as that sounds, artists do this all the time. They're always, how many people have you heard that ask you to give away your art for free or do an art test or any of that bullshit? I don't do art tests. I never have and never will. To me, it's like if you're too lazy to look at my portfolio, then you have no business calling me in the first place. I really have. I know I'm being harsh about that, but it's true. I totally wholeheartedly agree with him. The whole reason I spent the last, year building a portfolio is so I wouldn't have to do an art test. You should be able to get a good idea of what I do just by looking at my site, right? But you know what I mean? And when it comes to um, professional work, I'm not doing the industry any justice by giving away everything that I've got because I'm basically telling you my artwork has no value. I haven't spent the last 30 years of my life training to just say, yeah, fuck it, here, take it. Who needs it? No. This to me, once you reach a certain level as an artist, your artwork is a big deal. It's something you take extremely seriously, and you should feel that way too, without question. And when you start to adopt that professional attitude about your work and realize that your art is a product, your art is something that actually sells films, sells games. You're making companies lots and lots and lots of money with your cool designs. Then not only does your attitude about how you work with clients and how you know, not only does your attitude about how to negotiate salaries and learning all those how to work with clients and all this kind of stuff, and how to produce artwork. Oops, how to produce artwork that sells and that's marketable, that studios are actually going to get a lot of use out of and stuff like that. Um, it changes your attitude about it. So you no longer just treat it like just goofing off. You really take your job seriously. You really take your work seriously. Even with this piece where I'm working very, you know, loosely, I still have a standard I'm living up to. I'm still trying to live up to a certain standard of quality and entertainment and narrative. There's a purpose to this piece. It's a concept piece. This is something that studios can look at and say, hey, I had a chance to check out his process. I can see how he works. Um, and I can see the quality that he executes. I have an idea of how long it takes for him to work on something of this level. So I can gauge, you know, what type of project I would engage him to do, depending on, I can see what his strengths and his weaknesses are, all that kind of cool stuff. So I am a professional, and this is professional work. You know what I mean? I'm not just painting for the sake of killing time. So don't hate on people that sell stuff. You should be selling your stuff too. If anybody's making a mistake, it's the fact that you're giving away all the good stuff for free and treating money like it's not important. Of course it's important. One day it won't be important. When that's the case, we'll share for the sake of sharing, but unfortunately we have bills to pay, right? And that's something that artists stress over a lot. Even the big names. Look at Jason Seiler just did a note. He just had his Adobe Max conference. I think I mentioned this earlier. But there's another video he released very recently where he did a little talk. It's on YouTube. It's on my site if you want to go check it out. It's on YouTube where he's just talking to his students about the career as an artist, right? And he says, I'm scared. I don't like looking at my bank account. It stresses me out. And you're sitting there going, dude, you're the most sought after artist on earth right now. Okay, what the hell are you worried about money for? Well, it's because when you work as a freelancer, you know, you don't necessarily know where your next paycheck's going to come from. So, you know what I mean? So that can be a very stressful situation for people. And even somebody in his position with his reputation is still stressed out. That means, hmm, you know what? Maybe, it puts into perspective the fact that you need to, if you want to work independently, it is constant work. You know, you're constantly keeping yourself busy. You have to learn how to solicit yourself, right? You got to get over that shyness of saying, "Hey, check me out," right? Look, I can do artwork too. And we're very often shy as artists to do that stuff. But you know what? Get over it. You have to get over. Well, if you don't get over it, you won't eat, right? So now the other alternative to that, which a lot of artists take for very logical reasons, which is a venue I take to sometimes, is to work in a studio, right? To actually do studio work, which is fun. The only thing is for me is the difference with me, I find, and for a lot of artists who take this route as well, is the fact that um, my attitude used to be, I'll take any job you give me. Just I need a salary. I need to pay my bills. I'm stressed out. I've got bills to pay, and I don't know what I'm going to do, and blah blah blah. And you walk into a job with a sense of desperation to a certain degree, and that's something that's changed with me. I've learned just from experience that I don't accept jobs for the sake of accepting jobs. I accept jobs because I can see I'm well suited for it, and I'm not afraid to tell directors, it looks like an awesome project. I would love to work for this company, but I'm not well suited for this position. It's not my style. I'm not going to produce the artwork you're looking for. Um, but if another project comes up where you feel I'm more suited for it, cool. And turn it down if it doesn't work. I work for projects that I work for, and I have to agree with the company and how they work too. Like if I walk into an interview and the boss is sitting there chewing gum saying, "Impress me," you know, and they look at your work and they go, "Yeah, all right," they act unimpressed, then I know what kind of douchebag I'm dealing with when I actually walk into the studio. So for me, I'm like, thanks, but no thanks. You know, I want to work for a guy who's got a good attitude, who encourages his staff. I want to work for a director who cares about his employees. And if he doesn't care for him, I'm not going to care to produce great work for him. My heart's not going to be in it. And I know from experience, if my heart's not in my work, then that's a recipe for a big letdown on both sides. You know what I mean? Does that mean you have to be a super hyper pro that's amazingly sought after? No. It's that when I think about my career and the jobs that I accept, I'm thinking about my future, where my future is going. And if I'm accepting jobs for the sake of accepting jobs, I'm setting myself to potentially um, let them down, and not do a good job because I wasn't well suited for the job in the first place. And that's a lose-lose situation, and that does not contribute towards your future. And that's to me something I'm very conscious about. If I'm gonna work on a project, I want to know that that project is something that's going to lend itself towards my future. Am I going somewhere with this? Is this, I have to ask myself, what type of artwork do I want to do? What type of career do I want to have, right? And if I'm doing artwork for the sake of artwork and my heart's not in it and I'm really not having a good time and I know in the back of my head I keep telling myself I could not imagine doing this for the next 50 years, then chances are I'm not going to do a very good job, you know. But if it is, then my heart's in it. I can put much longer hours into my work because I'm energized. I'm hyped about the project. I love the people that I'm working with. I'm creating friends and colleagues that I know I'm gonna keep for the long term. It's gonna help build my professional reputation, and all of those things are how you slowly build up a career, right? But if you keep taking jobs for the sake of taking jobs and you keep screwing them up, then you're not doing yourself any good. Now, to make things clear and not sound too emphatic about that, you're not going to destroy your career. The only way you could technically destroy your career as an artist if you walk in with a shotgun and kill everybody in the office, which I strongly discourage you from doing, by the way. I don't think that would be cool at all, but of course not. But you know what I mean? I'm just exaggerating a little bit here, but that's what would destroy a career. But everybody has ups and downs, and even if you're 50 years old and you still haven't had your big break and you still haven't gotten your foot in the door, but you're still passionate about it, keep working at it. Because what artists, I take this from a director, I've directed as well. What directors look for is the artwork they're looking for. Point final. That means that's it, that's all. That's what they're looking for. And if your artwork's what they're looking for, even if it took you 50 years and you know that there's 20-year-olds that capable of doing that a long, long time ago, and they're already, they got big names in the industry, who cares? All people care about is the beautiful artwork that you look at. And now me, here's a good example. I've just turned 39 today, and there's a lot of artists out there that are a lot younger than me that their names were out for years and years and years. They're very well known. They've gotten huge contracts and stuff like that, and they've been in parts of big productions, and they got huge followings and stuff like that. And that's who very often us as artists tend to look at. We tend to focus on the Darkins, right? Darkin, he was working for he's been working for Magic the Gathering for a while now, but he was working at Mythic, working on Warhammer Online and stuff like that. That's when I discovered him originally. Although he might have been working on MTG back then as well. I'm not sure. But in any case, he was really young. He was in his early 20s. And I was only kind of coming back into the concept, into the 2D art world. I kind of took a detour into 3D for a little while. That kind of threw my career off on a bit of a sidetrack for a little while. And I came back in and I learned from Darkin. And Darkin at the time was like what, a decade younger than me. But he was one of the artists I really, really got a lot from and learned a lot from. And I've always really encouraged his career. Just from a fan's perspective, just from a somebody who enjoys his work. And but what you don't focus on is a lot of these artists that are really big names now, okay? They're older now. And very often us as artists, we have a tendency to look at them and go, Oh, but they've always been great. They have like, 50-year career behind them. Yeah? Have a look. Pay attention. Look at actors out there. Check out the actors you see online, you know? Some of these actors that are hugely famous now and they're like in their 40s or 50s, you know? Uh, how long have you known them for? How many films did they do before you noticed them? You'd be surprised how many of these famous actors today, nobody knew who they were 10 years ago. They were still actors, but they were actors who couldn't find a job, right? As a lot of actors do. Acting's just as bad as concept art and as illustration in some respects, and sometimes even worse. It's real hard to get your name out there, and to get known. It can be a really tough industry. I have a friend of mine who's an actor, and I mean, he's done extremely well for himself. He was in the last X-Men, but fuck, man, that guy's been through the ringer, you know. And he had to do a lot of other side jobs just to make a living. Now he got a big break, but it took him a long time to do it. And a lot of my friends who are like now in their 40s and 50s, a lot of them come up to me and say like, "Yeah, but how do I make? I'm too old." Dude, you're not too old. You're never too old. Artists, look at the artists that have been producing artwork their entire freaking life. Chuck Jones continued to make artwork until the day he died. He only died a little while ago. He only passed away a little time a while ago, but he's been doing this stuff his whole life. He never retired, you know? And fame, if your ambition is to become well known and famous and get a big following, which a lot of artists want that too, of course, right? Um, it's a noble pursuit because it keeps you on your toes and keeps you working, right? Um, in fact, I remember even reading about this once that most professionals only really reach their real prime. Not for everybody. I mean, some people reach it early, but some of them only reach their real professional prime and really become who they will be for the rest of their life professionally in their early to mid 40s. That's an eye opener, isn't it? A lot of people think, "Oh crap! If I can't make a name for myself by the time I'm 25, then I've missed the boat." You haven't missed shit. You're just getting started. It's funny. A lot of my friends on Facebook, in Facebook, you get like 2,000 Facebook happy birthdays, you know, and somebody says, "Enjoy your last year as a youngster," and my answer to that is, "Dude, you're the first 39 years of your life is just a warm up. The real stuff starts when you hit 40." I said, "So I've had my chance to goof off. Now it's time for me to get busy and do the real stuff. I've just been warming up for the last 39 years. Now I'm ready to get started." And I don't, I have no qualms being a late bloomer. It's all good. Just gives me something to look forward to. Yeah, so don't if you're like if you're listening to this video and you're like 56 and you want to get in, you'd love to do something like this as well, and you think, "Oh, dude, yeah, it's easy for you to say, you're a young guy." I'm not young. I'm 39 years old. I'm an old codger. And if you want to get into this career, do it. Start now. Because that's the cool thing about being old, though. Because old people don't give a shit about being famous anymore. See, I love that. I love how old people don't give a shit. I want to not give a shit. I give a shit too much. My grandmother's a very good example of that. I remember telling one of my videos. I was talking about a story about how my grandmother's shed had burnt down behind her house and how she couldn't even care less enough to leave her kitchen. She just watched it burn from her kitchen, 10 feet away from the fire. And I'm just putting this little smoke here just to help pull some attention. You'll notice the smoke is slightly higher value and a little bit bluer. I'm adding a little bit more saturation just so your eyes see that there's something there to look over to. But yeah, she couldn't care less about anything. I mean, an old Polish grandmother, and she's the type of person who, she was like 89, 90, 91, and a cop pulled her over because she was driving like an idiot, which she does because my grandmother didn't know how to drive for the life of her. and never did when she was young either. She was never good at driving, and a cop would pull over and say, do you know how fast you were driving, ma'am?" And she'd go, "I don't know. Who cares? You know, you talk like that to a police officer, you're gonna get yourself in trouble." Puh. What are you gonna do? You're gonna arrest an 85-year-old woman because she has an attitude problem? Get out of here. That was her attitude. I was like, you gotta respect that. Of course, me at 39, if I try to pull a stunt like that, I'll end up in the slammer for a night. So I got to be a little bit more careful with how I carry myself. But I can't wait till I'm like 89 so I can just, a cop comes up to you. You realize, sir, that you're driving recklessly. Yeah. What's your point? What are you gonna do? Arrest me? I'm old. I'm frail. Fuck off. No, I wouldn't tell a cop to fuck off. I'm setting a bad example here. No, I'm actually quite cool with cops. A lot of people hating on cops. I'm actually pretty cool with them. I'm gonna make this look a little rustier. There's another group of people that get a lot of heat. Sometimes for just cause, right? But sometimes not so much. Those people you love to hate, and there's a lot of good cops out there that deserve a little slack. I'm not talking about those idiots that abuse their power. Don't get me wrong. You know, there's a little bit too much contrast in that guy. See, I'm looking at what's closer and what's further. I'm also comparing it to here too, but I'm gonna add a little bit more. I'm gonna add a little bit of ambient occlusion to this guy because those little extra details to help establish that he's an actual steampunky robot dude. Again, talking about clarity and the readability of this character, yes, but I want to make him look robotic, right? I want to make him just like a stylized creature in this world because he's not what's selling this world. It's the environment itself. He's just a kind of a narrative element to this overall scene, just to show that there's, with all these buildings and all of this stuff going on, that there's actually life in the city. Otherwise, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Um, you know what I mean? But yeah, cops get a lot of heat too, and some of these cops really don't freaking deserve it. Some of these are really nice guys that work hard, and just because they're cops, you get some douchebag that walks up to him and says, calling him names and calling him a pig, and I'm like, dude, seriously? How many artists? How many? And you wonder why these guys stress out. How many artists do you know that get called a pig on a daily basis and get hated on and get attacked by people? You don't hate on cops, man. If a cop pulls you over because you were speeding, it's not because they're an asshole. It's because you're speeding and you're going to kill somebody. It's not complicated. Stop hating on the cop. Of course, you get a cop that pulls a gun and shoots some innocent guy who's got his hands over his head for whatever reason, be it racial or, you know, bad training, whatever the case might be. Then no, that guy deserves to be behind bars. But is it because he's a cop? No, it's because he's an idiot. That's my 2 cents. You know, I've had to call on the cops to help me with certain things in my life, like if there was ever an incident or whatever the case might be. And I was always grateful they were there, you know, always. I've never dealt with a bad cop in my life, and if it weren't for them, things could have gotten very dangerous. I remember once I was downtown and this fight had broken out, and some crazy guy pulls out a hatchet out of his bag and goes to attack the guy with the hatchet, you know, and luckily the fight hadn't ensued to the point where he actually started to use the thing, but I called the cops at that point. I was thinking, this guy's gonna get really freaking hurt. This just got really serious. Cops showed up in about 4.6 seconds and took that guy down so fast. You didn't even see it coming. Like they came, it's like they came in, cleaned up shop, walked out, bang, job done, move on. And I was like, whoa, where the hell did they come from? I had hardly hung up my phone and they were already there and the job was taken care of. And I was like, You know, how many people call you, you know, Adam, come help me. Somebody pulled out a hatchet, like, well, call the cops. Somebody's got a shotgun. What do I look like? What am I, Iron Giant? Call the freaking cops, Your job, the jobs, they're taking on the job of actually going where everybody else is too scared to go, to deal with things that they're constantly putting themselves in harm's way and dealing with a lot of crap in this world, so that you can live a safe life, you know? So, you know, you hate on those guys long enough, eventually they're gonna just say, you know what, fuck that, and all these good cops are gonna end up walking out. You don't want that to happen, man. You need their help. You need brave people. You know, show them a little respect. Yeah, you came for an art lesson, and here I am going on about respecting police officers. Boy, did you get shafted. All right, I think that's cool. Yeah, I'm gonna boost the value a little bit. Oops. Boost the value of the base a little bit, so I can have that contrast pop a little bit more, not too much. Okay. Did I change anything? No, I didn't change squat. All right, fair enough. Because he's so small, I'm gonna have to push that contrast a little bit. So he's just a little old guy walking around doing his thing. Now it would be cool, just add a little detail to him. He has kind of like a furnace type opening on his side. Might be interesting. With a little bit of green slimy liquid inside. Yeah. Just because we have a lot of this kind of unanswered negative space going on here. Just kind of give his physique a little bit of purpose here. Understand a little bit more what's going on and why. Okay, now I'm going to duplicate it, Alt and drag my layer. I'm going to transform it, scale it slightly. I'm going to use this to create my rim. Oops. There you go. Yeah, I consciously, when I'm making these videos, these longer ones especially, it's not just about creating tutorials, it's also to kind of, I regard, when I see a lot of these tutorials, I kind of regard them as kind of like my painting buddies. I'm listening to fellow artists talk about their stuff while I'm working on mine, and it's just kind of just to have that voice in the back. So when I make these longer ones, sometimes I'm thinking sometimes people they're not necessarily doing it to learn so much. It's just to have somebody to, just somebody to keep them inspired in the background while they're working on their own thing. Okay, now I'm gonna add a bit of shadow underneath, but at the same time, I don't want to waste your time with just talking about my life all the time. I want to be able to offer you something you can walk away with. I need to move it over. And it'll also give me an excuse to maybe throw a few pipes in there with it too. Yeah, so that's why when I let these videos trail on, come on, what's going on? When I let these videos trail on, and I'm doing so with the intention of just, you know, giving you something you can just listen to and glance over and look at every now and then. It doesn't mean you have to sit there and sit through, hours and hours of heavy material all the time. That's, nope, my bad. It can be pretty hard to do, especially if you got a life to live. But if you're just sitting there painting already, then just enjoy. Sit back and enjoy it. Play it in the background, have some music playing. It's fun. I like it. So you must like it too. It's very good. You and me, we partners, we friends, we talk. We talk life. We do things similar, you know? Make similar life things together. It's very good. How's that look? Oh, that's kind of cool. I like that. All right, I'm gonna take it down a little bit. So I can build up the glow a little bit. Make it look like he's got this weird ectoplasmic slime bubbling up inside him. It's good. Another little Easter egg. We got our butterfly and we got our little bugger over here. Thinking in terms of his color. Just let me check something here. I'm gonna orange it a little bit more. No, I think that's okay actually. I'll keep it as it is. Now, my last little finishing touch is I will add a little bit of a glow to this, and I'm going to add a little bit of a smear to it as well to show that it's not perfectly clean glass type of thing. Everything's dirty. Everything's dirty and rusty and old and same principle. The same reason I did this to the clock tower too. I wanted to add a little bit of a smear to that window. If it looks too clean and pristine, it's going to clash. Maybe I can move it over to this side. Yeah, that's better. Here's a question for you. I was actually, when I was talking before, I was going on about the improv thing before, and I thought it'd be cool to. What kind of cool names could you think of for the forum? If you were to name it something. A lot of you guys are probably better at naming things than I am. I've always sucked at naming things. I'm not as bad as my mom, though. My mom sucks at naming things. But yeah, what name would you give a site like this? I guess in context to the kind of stuff that I produce. Let's add some glow. So feel free to leave a post in the forum. Let me know if you have any cool ideas. Or maybe you got a great idea and you don't want me to, you want to save the good stuff for yourself. So that's cool too if you want to do that. So in that case, I suggest you keep it a secret until you launch your site. And then I'll hate you forever for beating me to the punch. Maybe a simple overlay. Let me see. I'll double it up. Yeah, I just want to make sure that catches the eye. No, he's too profile for that. I prefer him small. So I wouldn't want to have to clean up all of that anyways. All right. Well, you know what, guys? Because this is such a complex scene, I'm sure that there's lots of ideas you guys can throw at me for content I can throw into this piece. But for now, I'm pretty happy with how it's turned out. There's just a last little touch I want to add to it just for color balance. But I'm ready to call this done for now. But again, go check out my forums at adamduff.com, the link in the description. And if you have any ideas on how I could boost this, give it a little bit more life and energy, or little characters you think would be cool to see walking around this scene, then I'm sure you guys have ton of great ideas that I couldn't have thought of, right? So, so yeah, so feel free to share your ideas. Now I'm just going to throw in one little last touch here, just a little color balance, just to harmonize everything a little bit better. You'll notice in this piece I'm far less focused on going the traditional route. I went pure digital, textured brushes. Don't be shy to use the tools you got. That's what it's all about. It's about having fun, right? So I'm a little bit of a reddish tone overall, and then I'm feeling it needs a little bit of a coolness to it because we have kind of a lot of warm tones. The reds are cooler reds, but still pop a little bit of cyan into there, just in the background to help balance it overall a little bit more. That'll help. When you put this much time and effort into a piece of artwork, you want people to be able to sit and enjoy it. And if it's too heavy in one direction or another in terms of hue, there's my keyboard shortcuts messing up on me. English. Um, you want people to be able to sit and enjoy it, and kind of you want them to rest in there and travel around your piece and enjoy it. And if you have too many tones that are too much the same temperature, it can exhaust the eyes a little bit too much. So adding that little bit of blue, helping to balance everything a little bit more. If I add a touch of green in there, perhaps, or a magenta blue. Give it a bit more of a rustic magenta blue in there, just to balance it all out. Yeah, that helps. That helps. He's good. He's very good. He's much better like this. Quality. Something my Polish grandmother would say when she'd look at something she'd say, ah, I got a new sweater, Hey, what do you think of my new sweater, Ma? Grandma? Yeah, I called her Ma. I called my grandmother Ma. I said, what do you think of my sweater, Grandma? When I was a little kid. Ah, she'd feel the fabric. Quality. Polish people are really freaking funny. They have a good sense of humor. Ah, quality. I do that with my students too, They look at my work. What do you think? They ask for my feedback on their artwork and stuff like this. Ah, quality. And then I walk away. And they're like, what, that's it? Good quality. Good quality. Very good quality. Many quality. All right. So there we are. I'm happy. It's going to have my John Hancock and all that stuff. And don't forget, I'm going to be posting it here. I'll just give you a quick show. Go to adamduff.com. If you go on my site, I just started a new section in my portfolio, community inspiration. And this idea was actually, I'm not sure who posted it. I'll mention it in the comments and stuff like that, but it might have actually been Marwan as well, but I think on his YouTube page. Somebody posted on my YouTube channel the idea for a steampunk village. I went, oh, cool, all right. I didn't look at it further than that, and I just decided to do this piece based on it. It was enough. It was enough to get my juices flowing. But I have my uh, all the work that's inspired by the community, the artwork that I produced for the forum. I'm going to be filling this section up. Of course, I have my own work here, some of my more recent stuff, but I have all the work that I did for the community here, like my demons and all that stuff. So, all right. So I hope you enjoyed it. Of course, there's going to be more videos on this painting or on this series. If you guys come up with ideas and you decide you kick me back into gear to put some more stuff or fix certain things or refine, of course, that's what it's all about. So thanks for watching. You have endured this entire video, so you deserve a big high five for that. All right. So thanks everybody. Thanks for watching. Take care.